just in time for NTV Weekend Edition. My name is Trevor Ombija. I hope you had a great weekend. Mine was awesome. Thanks for asking. Our top stories. Tonight.
Waende wazungumuze. Wakubaliane huko. Mzigo itapunguzwa kiasi gani, mahali gani. Sisi tuko tayari na tuko na kura.
DP Ruto is ready to rumble, but the pro-referendum team is a step ahead with a list of pressing issues.
Wewe mkubwa, kiatu chako kinakufinya pahali unajua. Lakini yule mdogo na pia naye si kiatu kinamfinya.
Also tonight, President Kenyatta moves to calm the storm brewing over water sharing.
Naomba viongozi tuache siasa ya maji.
Plus, a gruesome package and a wife now in custody.
Mara mingi alikuwa anasema ndakuwa siku moja.
The story of love gone sour in Eldoret. Also in our special feature, we talk to men and women about the growing beard sensation.
NTV Weekend Edition with Trevor Ombija.
Thank you so much for tuning in. My co-pilot tonight helping me with the sign language interpretation is Raphael Mbalu. We begin tonight on a sad note. 3 children have died while 2 others were injured after the loose walls of a river caved in, burying them alive in Marigat, that's in Baringo County. The tragedy occurred this afternoon when the children were playing near River Eldume. Residents claim that the deaths could have been avoided if the local hospital was well equipped to handle such emergencies.
Parents of the children who survived the tragedy cling on to their little ones at Marigat Sub-County Hospital. These 2 survived the wall of mud that came down on them when the walls of a river caved in. But their 3 friends did not. Tragedy hit the sleepy village of Kampi Turkana in Marigat, Baringo County, when several children aged between 5 and 10 years who were playing near a river were buried alive after the loose mud walls of River Eldume collapsed. Residents who are nearby the scene of the tragedy rushed the children to Marigat Sub-County Hospital, but according to health officials, 3 children died upon arrival before they could conduct any first aid.
Hata ilikuwa ni mara yao ya kwanza kuenda kucheza huko, kwa hiyo mtaro maji inapenda kukuja sana.
Kama sasa vile tuliona watoto tukakuja mbio hapa kukuja kufanya vile tunaweza kusaidiana na madaktari, tuone vile tunaweza kusaidia wale watoto. Muda si muda watoto kazidi kuongezeka kwa wengi. Sasa imekosa, sasa kila mtu amestuka. Tumepoteza watoto 3 kwa madakika chache sana, ile imekaribiana sana.
2 children are still recuperating at the hospital.
We have done our resuscitation. They are in stable condition, and we have referred them to Baringo Sub-County Referral Hospital.
Residents claim the deaths could have been avoided if the hospital was well equipped to handle such emergencies and had oxygen cylinders.
Na la huzuni kabisa, hatuna facilities. Kama sasa tungekuwa na hiyo oxygen kama 3 ama 4, kila mtoto angekuwa amepokea yake na pengine wangesaidika.
Rozongoi, NTV.
Well, our condolences goes out to the family and friends of those who lost their loved ones there. And police in Eldoret have arrested a woman suspected to have killed her husband after a quarrel. Police discovered the man's mutilated body stuffed in a sack that his wife was carrying from their home in Kamkunji Estate.
Police in Eldoret, who intercepted Melissa Mohinda's transport from her Kamukunji home, made a grim discovery in a sack that she was carrying. The mutilated body parts of a man believed to be her husband, Geoffrey Matenje, and who ended up dead after what witnesses say was a heated quarrel with his wife. Melissa has now been taken into custody. Police say she is the main suspect in the murder.
Akija nje akakuta pikipiki inabeba mama moja na msiko katikati. Wakati amepika wao tochi, mtu ya pikipiki akapoteza control, akaanguka. Kuamuka akakimbia. So huyo mwananchi akawa curious. Akaenda kuangalia akakuta ni mtu ameweka kwa kunia na damu inafucha kwa wingi.
Questions to Melissa about what had transpired were met with silence, but neighbors say the marriage between the two was rocky.
Huyu mama ni mama mwenye akona matusi kwa mdomo yake, akikunywa pombe ni mama wa kuongea maneno mabaya sana. Hii maneno yenye huyu kijana amesema ya kifo ni maneno yenye anaongeanga kila mara. Ana aibu, akikunywa pombe anaongea tu maneno. Ni mama mbaya sana. Si mzuri. Hata kama mimi jirani niliama hapa jana, lakini nawezaona ni ukweli yenye wanasema amemmaliza.
The family of the late Geoffrey Matenje attests to these claims that the marriage was rocky, the fights were frequent, and in some instances there were death threats.
Ilikuwa kila mali wakikosana. Huyu ambaye ni mshukiwa, ambaye ni mwite tu aunti yangu, yeye ndiye mara mingi alikuwa anasema ndakuwa siku moja. Hiyo ndo neno ambalo mimi nilishokujua kimwambia. Ile ndo neno ambalo kila mara walipokuwa wakigombana alisema siku moja tu, hizi maploti ambayo hii ploti ambayo unaona uko nayo utakuja iacha. Hiyo ndo kitu ambayo nimeiweka kwa akili yangu hii mwaka yote, ambapo ni jana nimekuja kuona ikitimia. Mjomba wangu marehemu ambaye alikuwa baba yangu,
Melissa Muhindi and Geoffrey Matenje had 2 children who now have no one to care for them. Their boda rider, who had been hired to transport the body of Geoffrey Matenje, has since gone into hiding. Lois Wangoi, NTV, Eldoret.
Oh, such an unfortunate incident there. Let's move over to a different place where students from University of Kabianga staged protest this afternoon after a student was found dead outside his hostel. 22-year-old Dennis Mukasa, a second-year Bachelor of Science in Communication and Public Relations, died from stab wounds inflicted during a fight outside a house where he had rented. University Vice-Chancellor Professor Wilson Kipngeno said the student had been out partying with friends at the trading center and was involved in an altercation with neighbors when he returned home. Other students reportedly heard the commotion and found Mukasa lying outside in a pool of blood. He was rushed to the University Health Center where he was pronounced dead on arrival.
It's a very sad situation, and we wait for the process now by the security system to be able to unravel what really happened. We are trying to actually pass the message to the family of this young man, and we have sent a team of officers to the home of this man.
We have seen another youth at Nairobi being killed. Nothing has been done by the office of the DPP. So we are asking Nurin Haj, kindly do something to rescue the comrades. We are tired of this. We shall not stand as we watch our comrades being killed.
Let me give you a break from all the sad news and talk about politics now. Deputy President William Ruto has dared those calling for a referendum to change the constitution to bring it on. Ruto says a referendum should only help improve lives and not create more positions. Other leaders who support the referendum, however, say Kenyans should be given a chance to decide, as Vincent Oduor reports.
The Deputy President has been unwavering in his anti-referendum message, and in veiled barbs targeted at those on the other side of the referendum divide, the Deputy President dared those behind the drive to bring it on.
Hiyo grupu yote waende wazungumuze, wakubaliane huko. Mzigo itapunguzwa kiasi gani, mahali gani? Vyeo itaongezwa kona gani, kwa sababu gani? Wakisha kubaliana, wakubaliane tena tarehe ngapi wanataka hiyo kura ya maoni ifanywe. Hiyo waende wafanye. Wakisha kamilika watuletee. Sisi tuko tayari na tuko na kura.
The Deputy President has been opposed to what he calls selfish interests that he says the referendum is meant to serve. He accused ODM leader Raila Odinga of using his handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta to drive a wedge between them.
Ukituambia ya kwamba ati mambo ya referendum ilikubalianwa siku ya handshake, hiyo ni kutudanganya na ni uongo na ni ukora na ni unafiki.
Ruto has been on the receiving end of criticism from a section of leaders who have called out his anti-referendum stance, a sharp about-turn from his pre-2010 stance where he was opposed to a change of the constitution. This clamour perhaps now reframes the 2010 battle that still had the deputy president on one side and ODM's Raila Odinga on the other. Both the leaders and their lieutenants have taken cue.
Ya chama cha Jubilee, tuende tuketi chini pamoja, watangaze ya kwamba hakuna haja ya Big Four agenda, tuendeni kufanya siasa ya referendum, sisi tuko tayari kwenda hapo.
Building Bridges Initiative imebadilishwa na watu wengine ikakuwa hiyo ni ile change the constitution initiative to create more position for executive. Na ile ilifanya hiyo Building Bridges Initiative itengenezwe ni kukua peace na Kenya.
The time is now and it has to be done. The only thing is that we now want to know what amendments do people want. And for that we have rolled out a program.
The proponents of a change in the constitution say it is the panacea for most of the problems facing the country, such as over-representation that was overburdening the Kenyan taxpayer.
Make sure through the building of the Bridges Initiative, we come up with a document that is going to address these issues afflicting us.
Tunataka tuseme kuna vipengele kadhaa ambavyo vinatuuma. Wewe mkubwa, kiatu chako kinakufinya pahali unajua. Lakini yule mdogo na pia naye si kiatu kinamfinya. Pia naye aje kwa meza, naye aseme kwamba kiatu kinamfinya wapi.
The ongoing referendum debate has driven a wage among political leaders, with some holding the view it may just be the test of dominance between the deputy president and ODM leader Raila Odinga ahead of 2022. Vincent Odur, NTV.
So as all that is happening, President Uhuru Kenyatta has hit out at leaders engaging in politics in 2022 talk at the expense of service delivery to Kenyans. The president says political debate at this point in time was unhelpful and only served to fuel tension way before the 2022 political season. Mel Miendo also reports that President warns to give stern action would be taken against those involved in the pilferage of public funds.
President Uhuru Kenyatta lamented that the country had been consumed by unhelpful political banter at the expense of development. The president hitting out at leaders preoccupied with 2022 talk, saying the time was not yet ripe.
Tuajua kila miaka mitano tuko na uchaguzi. Si tugojee jameni miaka tano kwanza ifike tuanze kupiga siasa ya uchaguzi huo mwingine. Sasa tufanye kazi.
The president offered a detailed rebuttal of leaders that had sullied the country by polarizing politics. He called on them to desist from fueling unnecessary tension, saying Kenyans were only concerned about service delivery. Politicians have been feuding about 2022 with those allied to the deputy president, propping him up as the front runner, while those allied to ODM's Raila Odinga digging in. Deputy President himself has been on developmental tours that have been marked by 2022 talk.
Mambo yetu kila siku tukiamkia ni kubishana kisiasa. Wananchi wa Kenya wanataka huduma. Wananchi wa Kenya wanataka kutumikiwa na wale ambao waliwachagua. Wenzetu hatutakula vyama vyetu. Tutakula jasho ya viongozi wetu.
The president also warned unspecified action against millers who sold maize flour at exorbitant prices instead of the government set 75 shillings.
Kwa sababu bei ya mahindi imeshuka, tunataka kuona bei ya unga pia ikishuka. Na wale ambao wataendelea kunyemelea wa Kenya, basi ni hawa tutachukuliwa hatua. Hawa ndio watachukuliwa hatua.
Exercises such as these in many occasions has been politicized, with President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, a county cleanup exercise that is expected to be done in all 85 wards in Nairobi County. Will the government keep its word or not? Mel Miendo, NTV, Uhuru Market, Nairobi.
Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops is calling for a united cause from religious and political leaders to fight corruption and divisive politics. Speaking during the annual national prayers by Catholic faithful in Subukia, that's in Nakuru County, the bishops also called for renewed dialogue in the country to quell the sparks of disunity recently witnessed in some parts of the country. Thousands of Catholics from all over the country attended the national prayers at the Subukia National Shrine. The Pope's representative to Kenya was also in attendance.
We all have a moral and a political and a religious obligation to ensure that we work for the common good of all Kenyans. In fact, in the last few days, it has been observed that Kenya has the biggest percentage of its population living below the poverty line within the region. We all need to wake up to this reality and be sensitive to the situation of our citizens and address this situation most urgently.
So let's talk about another brewing feud. President Uhuru Kenyatta has warned Nairobi and Murang'a counties against fighting over water and instead land to share. The president's remarks came in the midst of a tussle between the two county governors who have been feuding over the supply of water from Murang'a County to Nairobi.
While leading the residents of the city in cleaning up their estates and markets, the president was also wading into the murky politics of water distribution that have been playing out rather publicly between the chief executives of Nairobi and Murang'a counties.
Na ndipo nasema na naomba viongozi tuache siasa ya maji. Maji ni kipeo cha Mwenyezi Mungu kwa wananchi wake.
Governor Sonko and Governor Mwangi wa area have been locked in a war of words over just who owns the water that flows from Murang'a County into the Ndakaini Dam that supplies the bulk of water for use in Nairobi. Murang'a has claimed rights to the precious commodity and now wants Nairobi to part with some cash for the supply of the same.
Water is mine as a county governor, and I want to repeat that this 25% we must sit down and discuss.
Sisi wakaaji wa Murang'a tunasema ni kweli tuko supposed kulipa pesa za maji.
Hatubaduki. Nairobi, on the other hand, maintains that it can't and won't pay for the water that it has traditionally enjoyed for years.
Maji ya Nairobi yanatoka kwa milima ya Aberdares. 84% of the water.
The presidents stand on the issue.
Na ile inatakikana ni sisi tuje pamoja tujue tutayatumia kwa njia gani kwa manufaa ya wananchi wa Kenya. Hii rasilimali ni yetu sisi wote.
The president's remarks are in line with those taken by the CS for water earlier in the week, leaving an increasingly isolated Murang'a governor fighting a battle that not only pits him against the national leadership but his own county water companies. The governor has in the past reorganized the management of the water company in the county. His county MCAs, however, insist that they will create laws that will compel those outside their county to pay for the water that flows from the rivers in the county and those that cut through. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
From the water ceasefire, let's talk about education matters now. And the government says it is committed to end the ongoing dispute between the Teachers Service Commission and the Kenya National Union of Teachers. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed assured this as she urged both parties to soften their hardline positions and resume talks for the sake of the education and the children of Kenya. Amina was speaking in Kiambu after attending a ceremony organized by the Alliance Old Boys to honor the late Kenneth Matiba.
There's a negotiation that's ongoing. I think both parties have taken a short break. This country is constructed on a foundation of dialogue, and that is what actually must take front stage. We all have to learn to have discussions in peace and quiet, to have disagreements, but to compromise. Because nobody can walk away from a negotiation table with everything that they wanted, right? Then it's not a negotiation. Yeah, it's basically a dictatorship.
Well, a woman from Makwini is asking the courts in Machakos to hasten the implementation of a court order granting her access to her former husband's property to enable her get medical attention. Judy Mutava's husband chopped off both her hands and a leg in what is one of the most gruesome cases of domestic violence. The incident 4 years ago left the single mother to cater for the 3 children all by herself.
At the busy Emali Junction fresh produce market, a woman tries her best to gain the attention of her customers. She has to woo them to her stall. Every coin she earns here goes towards the upkeep of her children, and what is left goes to taking care of her medical condition.
Gari ikisimama bari kidogo huwa wanakimbia. Labda ule mtu tu amejitolea kuja kwangu. Ndio nasamuzia.
She wasn't born like this though. Her disability is man-made. 4 years ago, she was an able-bodied woman running her business and taking care of her family. That will change after a domestic disagreement. With her then-husband over infidelity issues on his part. In a moment of rage, the man who had proclaimed his love for her nearly turned into her killer. She survived the attack that left her without her 2 hands and a badly damaged leg that had to be eventually amputated. 2 years later, the husband was handed the maximum sentence for his crime, attempted murder. He was also ordered to liquidate his assets, and the proceeds of which will be handed over to Judy to help take care of her medical needs. Nearly a year down the line, she's still waiting.
Sasa mimi nashindangwa kwani koti iliamuaje? Sababu ilikuwa imesema nisaidiwe na hizo vitu zikauzwe, nirudi hospitali. Sikuweza. Haikuwezwa kuuzwa. So venye niliambiwa mimi mwenyewe niende nikaangalie hizo vitu venye ziko.
She says the courts have failed her in her quest to get her hands on her former husband's property. She believes that the amount raised from the sale of the same would help her get a much-needed surgery.
Tuseme kama kwa hii mkono niliambiwa niende nikafanyiwa operation tena. Mpaka waleo sijawahi enda kwa sababu pesa ni shida. Sina hiyo pesa kwa sababu alikuwa ameitisha 385,000. Kwanza nienda niadmitiwe. Na hiyo pesa mimi kwangu kupata ni shida.
For now, she carries on with the life she and her 3 children are getting slowly accustomed to.
Watoto wanasoma. Pia tu wanakula, lakini si ile maisha walikuwa wanakaa zamani. Sasa hii maisha imebadilika. Kwa sababu kupata kwangu pesa kwangu ni shida.
She knows that she has no choice but to soldier on for her family and for her own sake. She does that as she hopes that the court officials will ensure that justice is not just done but seen to be done. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Well, we certainly hope that justice will be served, at least so that Mutava can get the medical attention that she requires. We're taking a short break in NTV Weekend Edition, but when we come back, we still have more news, including hosts behaving badly, an embarrassing moment for the DP in Meru. Thank you so much for staying with NTV Weekend Edition. Let's cross over to Meru, where it was a clear case of bad behavior in front of the day's important guest, as Tigania East MP Josephat Kabebe and his predecessor, now Yala MP Mpuri Aburi, came to near blows during Deputy President William Ruto's meeting in Tigania. The two engaged in a brief physical tiff as the Deputy President flagged off construction equipment, paying very little regard to Sunny that was just rolling by. Before that, the leaders had engaged in a shouting match in what shaped up to be a supremacy battle. Take a look. My director Mike says, "Dunia ina mambo." Let's talk about more politics here. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has warned candidates taking part in the Migori Senatorial by-election to refrain from incitement or sponsoring violence ahead of Monday's vote. About 1,000 police officers have been deployed to various parts of the county to ensure Monday's vote remains peaceful.
Well, with just one day remaining for the Migori County residents to go to the poll to elect their new senator, this just after the demise of their late Senator Ben Oluochokelo, Migori County residents are now saying that they are ready for the poll as the IEBC assures them enough security during that exercise.
Tuko tayari, tunangojea hiyo siku sana. I'm ready for election na tuko tayari kwa chochote ambacho itatokea.
Ahead of Monday's vote, IEBC officers have been putting together the final details before polls open at 6. During the build-up and as candidates were in a last-minute dash for votes, there were flashes of violence, and the IEBC now says it is ready to put out the flames.
And when an event occurs, the Commission will assess and evaluate and take appropriate decisions as they occur. But of course, we will be firm with our decisions in as far as maintaining law and order is concerned.
The Commission has the mandate to declare the candidature of that particular person null and void. Yeah, so long as it is the supporter, even if it's not himself, who has perpetrated that violence or that crime, we can take an action against him, even on the polling day.
Migori County has over 388,000 registered voters. 5 candidates battling it out in the senatorial contest want a share of these votes in a contest that has been framed as a test of dominance between ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Samoei Arap Ruto.
The highest registered voters we have in the county is in Nyatike, with over 61,000 voters, registered voters, and the lowest Kuria East with about 34,000 registered voters.
Ochilo Ayako of ODM, Peter Jobando of the Green Congress Party, Eddie Okech of Federal Party of Kenya, Samuel Otieno, Dixon Otieno, both whom are independent candidates, will battle it out for the position. But residents who will pick one from among them already know the kind of a leader they will want.
Angalia vile governor atafanya kazi, pesa inatoka huko kubwa sana, lakini pesa inapotea hapa. Hatutaki mwenye atawekwa kwa mfuko afanye kazi, wananchi wamwambie tunataka hii na hii ifanyike na tunataka hiyo.
Na awe mkweli na awe mpenzi wa wote, asiwe na ubaguzi na asiwe na ufisadi.
Kiongozi ambaye tunamchagua, tafadhali tunakuomba kwa heshima yako, ukikubali tutengenezee Migori iwe safi, tupate maji.
The IEBC will start distributing voting materials to the polling stations starting tomorrow. The Commission has also assured the voters of their safety during and after the vote.
Every polling station will have at least 2 police officers, and of course presiding officer, deputy presiding officers, and 3 clerks.
Bernard Ojuang, NTV, in the county of Migori.
So here's something I would like to hear your opinion on. A recent court ruling in the UAE sounds like a wake-up call for spouses who spy into their partner's mobile phones. A criminal court found a woman guilty of breaching her husband's privacy after she looked into his mobile phone without permission. Was a punishment too harsh? We sampled views from a number of Kenyans. Here's what they had to say.
Mimi simu yangu bibi yangu
hawezi kuwa. Na mimi yake atakilia pale na muita chukue. Sababu sijui nani anampigia. Hiyo ni yake na yangu ni yangu.
Of suing someone, like mnaweza sikizana and talk about like this and this, but not to that extent. It's not right to check your partner's phone. You should give them all the benefits of doubt and just let them be, provided you trust each other.
Mara nyingi ukiangalia katika mtandao, WhatsApp, vitu kama hizo zinaweza leta shida nyingi sana, kwa sababu kila kitu iko na context yake, muktadha wake, ambapo you might not be in a position to explain all the messages to the person scrolling.
Mimi nimefunga ndoa na nilikuwa nikizifanya hizo tabia, lakini zinavunja nyumba, kwa sababu wanaume wetu wa Kiafrika au mwanamume yote huwa si waaminifu, na akiwa na affair nje haimaanishi kuwa hakutaki, ni hali tu ya mwanamume wa kawaida. So
mke kuchunguza simu yangu ni haki yake achunguze, juu kila kitu nilimkubali kuwa ni mtu wangu ama ni mmoja wa nyumba hiyo.
Kama watakataza sasa mke wangu nikakataa nishike simu yake na mimi nikataa shike simu yangu, hiyo itakuwa maisha gani?
Naona ni vema kushare simu. Sometimes simu inaweza kuwa imeisha moto, unaomba rafiki yako. Na kama unatumia hata ya mzee yako, sioni kama iko na shida.
I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Do you think the sentencing was too harsh? And would you do it? Would you pry into your partner's phone? Tweet me at Trevor Ombija at NTV Tonight. The hashtag we're using is NTV Edition. I'll sample some of your views. I know some of you are already saying, you see me criminal. Well, we're taking a short break here. We're coming back with much more, including... In our special feature tonight, we tell you more about the facial accessory that is now a growing sensation. Thanks for staying with us. Here's what I promised you earlier, special feature. Some dons have been donning it for years. Politicians Well, thank you so much for staying with NTV Weekend Edition. There's a lot of feedback coming on varied issues here. On the phone issue, Winnie Kuria says, mtu aguze simu yangu at their own risk. That's one way of putting it. Let's talk about women in power now. For Nyeri Deputy Governor Caroline Karugu, her surprise pick for the position was just the cap of her impressive life story. From her early days as a flower girl at presidential events to being crowned queen of the runway in beauty pageants, her stint in the boardrooms, and now in leadership. She tells of her humble beginnings and how her past experiences have prepared her for the journey ahead. Melita Oletenges has a story in this week's Women in Power.
Caroline Karugu, Nyeri's deputy governor, takes calculated steps that perhaps mirror her life story. The deliberate moves she's made and that have seen her rise to where she is today. From her home in Nyaribo village, Nyeri County, she tells of how Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga pulled her name from her heart and thrust her into unfamiliar territory.
It was a real deep end dive for me into politics, into the realities of stuff is going to be said that is totally untrue, and you must not get emotional about it, because guess what? It's politics. It's how it works.
But Karugu's leadership skills are not entirely untested. She has cut her teeth in the corporate world, having previously worked for the Nairobi Stock Exchange and Britam. She says she was unsure about public service and twice turned down the governor's offer.
And he was sure. Governor Mutahi was 100% sure. And he said, I am not going to appoint anybody else until you say yes. So I'm getting a lot of calls. I have money on my table. People come and tell me, I'm going to buy this job, but I'm giving you that job, Caroline. So he was sure. So 2 weeks down the line, he called and I said, yes, now I can talk.
A PhD holder in business administration from USIU, Caroline attributes her success and resolve to scale the heights of education from her late father. The basic principles of discipline, commitment, and hard work, she says, were instilled in her from an early age.
I was not that girl who grew up to be a doctor. And part of it is because my father did not want us to narrow down too early. If you look at even my education, I've remained broad until now to the PhD level when I really had to specialize. I've remained very broad, and that's because when you narrow down too early, according to my father, you set yourself up for disappointment.
But she wasn't always a technocrat. An experience back when she was an intern at the Nairobi Stock Exchange convinced the then 23-year-old Karugu to try something else.
And I remember going to work every morning and meeting this guy who was carrying a camera, and he would tell me, I think you are you're a beautiful girl that doesn't know that she's beautiful, and I want to put you in the beauty pageantry world. And I would think, yeah, a cameraman, really, a journalist, really, you know, it's a good pickup line, but, you know, thank you very much. Yes, I was crowned Miss Tourism Nairobi, and then I went to the national, that was 2002. And then there was a national event, and I was crowned Miss Tourism Kenya, second runners-up.
From her days entertaining retired President Moi at an early age, and whenever he visited Nyeri, and to the boardrooms, winning the World Council of Credit Union Award in 2010 tops the list of what she considers her achievements. But all that is behind her now as she focuses on the task ahead.
I look at it as really a privilege and an honor to serve people and to make meaningful, transformative changes in society. These offices are really and should really be more to humble you than to exalt you. And it's sad that any leader takes any one of these offices to exalt them.
By staying flexible and allowing herself to transform is what Dr. Caroline Karugu tells me has been the backbone of her rise from rank to rank, allowing her to learn the business and political side that she hopes to use in transforming Nyeri County. Melita Oletenges, NTV, for Women in Power.
Well, all the best to Caroline Karugu. Let's cross over beyond the borders. An oil-rich Gabon today voted in long-delayed legislative and municipal polls.
Sport, I'm Watson Karuma. The national football team coach, Sebastian Minye, will be hoping for Victor Wanyama's EPL stardust to rub off on his charges, who face tricky away and home Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Ethiopia. These were the Frenchman's sentiments as he, alongside 5 Harambee Stars players, jetted out this morning to Ethiopia. The 5 were Bandari goalkeeper Farouk Shikalo, Gor Mahia duo of Philemon Otieno and Francis Kahata, Abdallah Hassan of Bandari, and Kakamega Homeboys veteran forward Alan Wanga. The second batch will travel on Monday with foreign-based players linking up with the team in Addis Ababa. Kenya, which has had a topsy-turvy build-up, takes on Ethiopia on Wednesday in Bahir Dar, with the return set for 4 days later in Nairobi.
Now everyone knows that we have a chance, and we as players, we are focused on the first game first. That is on Wednesday in Ethiopia, and we are looking forward to, get the good results from there. Then now we will shift our focus to the next game.
I'm happy to recover my captain and one of my best players. It will be important. We won without Wanyama. It will be important to win with Wanyama. It's a challenge we have together, but it will not be easy in Ethiopia because they prepare very well this game.
Wishing the Harambee Stars all the best. With Gor Mahia already crowned champions and Thika as well as Wazito already relegated, the final day of the Kenyan Premier League will provide an answer as to which team plays in the relegation promotion playoff. Eyes will be on Posta Rangers and Nakumatt, who are tied on 37 points. 15th placed Nakumatt face Vihiga United with 16th, who are 16th, I beg your pardon, placed, and Posta Rangers taking on Kakamega Homeboys. The team that finishes 16th will have to play against the third-placed team in the National Super League to determine who plays in the KPL next season. As it stands now, that is either Ushuru or Nairobi Steamer. Ushuru play Nakuru All-Stars at Afraha Stadium tomorrow, when Nairobi Steamer tackle Kenya Police at the Karutori grounds. Meanwhile, KCB will return to the KPL if they beat Talanta at Camp Toyoyo on Sunday. Now, it was a very interesting match as Manchester United had to come back from 2 goals down to beat Newcastle. Meru as the Kenya Sevens head coach. This is according to the Kenya Rugby Union's Director of Schools and Elite Performance, Ray Orlando. Take a listen.
Those are things that we decided to look into because of the short duration we're having. And him having been with the players, most of these players before in the previous setup, I thought he will easily fit in. I believe we still have opportunities that we'll take. The team is good. We haven't lost the players. We've only changed the head coach, and basically then most of the technical bench is still intact and in place.
Kenya Ports Authority men stormed to the FIBA Zone 5 Championship semi-finals with a win over Rwanda's Patriots as Strathmore University Blades were eliminated after going down to Egypt's Smuha. Meanwhile, Simon Mwangi and Purity Kaleche emerged victorious in this year's edition of the Ndakaini Half Marathon that had the elite category called off owing to low turnout and a lack of sponsorship.
KPA powered their way into the men's semi-finals of the FIBA Zone 5 Club Championship with Hartford 2 basket 65-61 victory over Patriots of Rwanda. Patriots led 21-18 in the first quarter and 39-35 at the break. A massive comeback by Dockers, who outscored their opponents 21-7 in the fourth quarter, saw Kenyans carry the day. Earlier, Strathmore Blaze lost 71-53 to Egypt's Smuha. In the women's championships, Equity Bank made it 3 wins in a row with a comfortable 69-48 victory over host Jeshi la Kujenga Taifa. And Ndakaini resident Simon Mwangi ran the perfect race along the scenic Ndakaini Dam route to emerge victorious at the 15th edition of the Ndakaini Half Marathon. Mwangi crossed the line in 1 hour 12 minutes to win ahead of second place Josephat Kamau. In the women's category, Purity Kaleche cut the tape in 1 hour and 34 minutes, with Norwegian Marte Senstad, the surprise finisher of the day, coming in second. Peter Gitao and Janet Ruguru won the 10-kilometer men and women's event. Proceeds from the event will be channeled to the Ndaka community to support conservation efforts at the Ndakaini Dam. In what was billed as running to raise funds in support for the old, the 3rd edition of the Britam Ruai Half Marathon was won by Wycliffe Lusala and Lina Nechesa. Paul Mwangi and Jedida Wanjiru were victorious in the 10 kilometers race, with Kevin Ragoi and Sharon Mashangwe winning the 5 kilometers event. The proceeds from the event will see the elderly in the area have a community and houses built for them by the Anglican Church of Kenya. And hosts Makini School led the medal standings at the Kenya Swimming Federation Level 2 Swimming Championships, collecting a total of 37 medals ahead of second-placed Otters Swim Club and James Water Warriors.
There she goes, following crossing.
In a pick of the results, Clyde Luanya won the boys over 14 years individuals medley, with Tendai Nyaga victorious in the girls event. Becca Niam won the girls over 16 years backstroke, with Alvin Omondi winning the boys event. The championship next heads to Mombasa for the coast leg.
In Chicago Marathon is expected.
Miskatiwa
But of course.
Reggae
Reggae kuruka.
Wewe bana bombo klad rasta na buo.
I didn't understand that, but what would they say about my beard?
Alisema hizo ulipaka mbolea.
Ulipaka
mbolea hazijakuja tu hivyo.
Hiyo na hii gani nifiti? So think very carefully kabla uongee.
Hapo kidogo buda mnani challenge lakini wacha tuseme ukweli. Zote zinakaa fiti, but unajua pia test inategemea.
Yako ni gani?
Wajua kidogo kila mtu apate.
Alafu hebu niambie Miskatiwa warasta ucheckingi phone ya spouse.
Let me tell you kitu moja. Kama kuna watu awacheckingi ni warasta. Warasta by the way shughulikangi na phone za za wase, but ingekuwa ni mimi, trust me, nitaangalia. That is kama umeiacha hapo hivyo. Unanielewa? Kuna ile design
inakuita, si ndio?
Inaniita na kuna venye umeiacha. Then kuna venye unakwanga maybe uko insecure.
Mimi ni mrasta origin kiangalifu.
No, but rasta as much as kuna wenye pia wanaangalia. So sikizo rasta wamekuwa madiva kidogo alafu pia wame upgrade maslay kings kidogo.
Now we are being kicked out. No one can stop reggae.
But of course.
Well said. Good night.